Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we have a 2020 Chevy Traverse RS with 3.6 V6 and we will be changing oil on this car. So let's get underneath. So I have the car on ramps and general housekeeping. Drain plug. Weirdly enough, it sits on the front side of the engine of oil pan, not the rear side. Having said that, even though it's still on ramps, the angle is towards the front, so the oil will drain well. If you don't use ramps, this vehicle is quite tall, probably will be even better, but having it on ramps and rear on the ground is totally fine. The oil filter is just above this guy here, so we will get the oil drain first and then we'll remove the oil filter. Alright, to drain the oil you will need 15mm socket and obviously some sort of oil pan, so you'll just keep it close, so when it starts flowing you don't get it on the floor, just like that. And then when the flow slows down, we'll just put that pan down. At this point you don't want to remove the fill plug, since that will let it drain even faster. So now we'll just put the pan down and let it drain. Make sure that when this stream slows down it doesn't spill on the floor. So here is our drain plug. We'll get it cleaned. In general we will need 5.7 liters of oil, so make sure your catch tray is big enough. Right, so now when our flow has slowed down, we will start working on the filter, just using a filter wrench like that. The filter is also accessible from the top, so whatever is better for you. If you have car on the ramps, the bottom might be easier, a little bit more room to work with. But if your car is on the ground, then it's probably just better to do it from the top. It's in a tight spot. Just trying to grab it. So I will leave links in the description to the video for the filter and tools. Okay, this is much better. This filter is tight. So as soon as you get probably one full turn out of it, you can get it spinning by hand. And when it is loose enough, you will get some oil flowing, just like that. Not the prettiest scenario when it spills on your compressor, but it is what it is. We'll just keep going and we'll remove that filter so you cannot see much. But right now I'm just spinning that filter loose, and it's also kind of tilted down, so I just want to say that maybe you will not get that last dump of oil, but you will. So now when the filter is off, we want to take a rag and clean the surface where the filter is touching the filter housing. That's quite critical step because normally lots of dust gets stuck around, and when you install your filter, you can see how dirty it is. There's a big chance that you will get some crap in between the filter and the housing, and then it will develop a leak. Right, so I have my filter here. We need to apply a thin layer of fresh oil on this O-ring. This filter is slightly bigger than the old one, and in terms of filter, you don't want to use any cheap filters. Go with something reliable like Quix or AC Delco, Bosch. Don't go with cheap $5 filter. So now we just need to get this started. Okay, got it started. Now I just spin with my hand, and you can probably see that oil is still draining, and that's exactly what you want to do. You want to let it drain as much as you can, so we have that good displacement ratio. In many cases, when you go to the oil change stations, you will see that they will all power fill, and most of the time the reason is that they will put the quantity of oil by the book, but they never consider the amount that is still left when they do a really quick oil change. So now basically when your filter gets in touch with the housing, you want to give it another 3/4 of a turn, maybe half of a turn, depends on the gasket. But you shouldn't use any tools for that. You just go with your hand. So the filter is tight. We just clean all the mess that we made. We'll use some brake clean. Next we will put our plug back in, and we will torque it to 18 foot-pounds. If you have torque wrench, if you don't, just use small ratchet like this. Go tight. Don't want to go too tight. You don't want to strip this. This is aluminum oil pan, so it's not that difficult to strip. So next we'll clean it with the brake clean. Just give it a quick spray to get rid of all the residue that came from the filter. Right, next we'll remove the fill plug. And as I said, we are expecting to put over 5.6, 5.7 liter of oil. It is really important not to overfill the engine. If you do overfill it, it will foam up the oil, and it's really bad. Honestly, probably okay to have a little less oil than too much. So for the oil we use full synthetic 5W30, and we will start with the 5 liters. We will start the engine, we will run it for a few minutes, let the oil go through the filter. We'll shut it down for roughly 3 minutes, and then we'll measure. And the main reason why you want to do that is because you don't know how much oil is left in the system after you drained it. Ideally we want to drain as much, but we never know, and we don't want this to be overfilled. considering that the engine won't be at normal operating temperature when we measure, we will be aiming to have roughly 70% in the dipstick, because when it's really hot it will increase, then we'll get to those 100% that we want it to be. Right, so now when the initial fill is done, we have put roughly 5 liters. We'll just put the dipstick in, pull it out, check the level. So you want to go on both sides, and whichever shows the lower level will be the true one. So right now it sits roughly at 70% full. So that should be good enough for us to start the engine and get it leveled and recheck it. You always want to put your fill plug back in before you start the engine, because then you will get a nice spray of oil everywhere. So we'll start the engine, we'll get the car leveled. Alright, so now with engine ran for a few minutes, we have stopped it. Normally you want to give roughly 3 minutes for the oil to go down. So we'll check the level again. And as I mentioned before, the main deal is not to overfill. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's at the very bottom. So we'll probably give it another half a liter, which will get us really close to those 5.7 liters. Alright, we'll give it a bit more. It probably should be enough. We will do final check, hopefully final. If it's still too low, we might need to add more. So now, if we see, it's way at the top in range. Honestly, I would strongly recommend to have a little bit less, even though it's in range. The engine will get hot, and most likely it will go a little bit over. So most likely I will take it up back on ramps and drain just a little bit. But for now, let's go into the cab and reset the timer or meter. Right, we want to start the engine. So we have our display up. So we'll go to our info page, and potentially you will be on something else, but you just scroll down until you see oil life. It's at 11%, so you click reset, check mark, and it's reset to 100%. I'm not exactly sure how it counts and how it calculates, but I would recommend changing oil if you drive on all highways every 10-12,000 kilometers. If it's city driving, 5,000-6,000 kilometers. If it's mixed, obviously around 7,000-8,000 to keep you safe. But at this point, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe, and as always, just do it yourself.